Welcome out there. My name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. And here is my take for the week, entitled, Who Will Tell the President? There are things that the public are interested in, but seems not to be getting the due attention of the president. At least there is no communication about these things. For instance, the restoration of the social investment program. Over a month ago, it was announced that it will resume urgently, even as an emergency. It is now April, and this has not been restored. Who will tell the president? Specifically in February, the coordinating minister of the economy, Mr. Wale Edun, said restarting the direct cash transfer was crucial to tackling food prices, especially elevated prices, and also government's ability, that it will help government's ability to provide purchasing power to at least 60 million people who are less well off. Has this been done? Who will tell the president that the investigation of the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta Hedu, is taking too long? How long will it take for a decision to be taken on the report of the EFCC? And how long will it take to have a substantive minister named back to that ministry? Or, as the president approved the idea, to move some of the programs to the Ministry of Finance? Who will tell the president that the Emergency Economic Intervention Bill is still lying fallow on someone's desk somewhere? This is a bill that attempts to codify some of the tax reform proposal from the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, alongside other urgent economic measures. When is that bill going to be sent to the National Assembly? Members of the National Assembly are saying that they've had no movement on this bill since November. Who will tell the president this? Who will tell the president that now that the CBN is able to get the naira to some stability, it's time to tax luxury items that are being imported and cut off our heavy importation so that we can save the naira, so that we can spend less foreign exchange? India did a similar thing when Mahatma Gandhi said, and I quote, "If India cannot feed herself, let India starve. If India cannot clothe herself, let India go naked," unquote. It was at the time when India was facing such a crisis as we are facing now in Nigeria. Tough times demand tough decisions. Who will tell the president that instead of an investigation into an allegation of smuggling by known people that has been reported by journalists, especially the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, what we see is an attempt to criminalize journalism. Instead of our authorities to investigate such allegations that are already reported publicly, what we are being told is that there are petitions against the journalists. Who will tell the president that the attempts to intimidate the press is not in Nigeria's best interest, and that it creates a poor reflection on a president that we all know is a true Democrat? If the smuggling allegations that Soyombo has reported are inaccurate and false, government should tell us. Going after him and the board of FIJ is not the way to go. Who will tell the president that all of these are happening under his watch and that it does have implications for his legacy? One day, 4 years, 8 years maximum, he will be a former president. What is going to be said about attempts by people under him to intimidate journalists? Who will tell the president that for months since Nigeria has withdrawn ambassadors from our embassies abroad, their replacements have not been announced? And now, our embassies are operating below capacity without substantive envoys. Who will tell the president that in diplomacy, in the world of diplomacy, the place of a properly accredited ambassador cannot be compared to anyone below him acting in that capacity? Who will tell the president that this is not in the best interest of Nigeria's foreign policy? These are some of the issues that we hope that somebody who has the president here will bring to his attention. At the end of the day, it is about what the president does and what he does not do. And there you have my take for the week. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we continue the conversation on the future of Nigeria, and I have with me today an impressive guest, a leading legal luminary, human rights lawyer, somebody that needs very little or no introduction. I want to welcome Chief Femi Falana, SAN, to Inside Sources. You're welcome to Inside Sources, sir.
I thank you very much, except to correct the error you have just made in introducing me to your guest. I'm not a chief.
Okay.
So I don't want to be accused of having obtained a chieftaincy title by false pretenses, So I'm not a chief. I'm simply Mr.
I get your point. Mr. Femi Falana.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My pleasure.
Welcome. Thank you so much. So I normally start the conversation on the future of Nigeria by asking my guests where they think the country is going. And, so in your case, your views are very well known on few of the issues. So I'd like to just take it from the point of view of the judiciary. But you could take it in any direction that you also want. What do you think is the state of the judiciary today? And how best do you think this can be sorted out for the future of the country?
About the future of the country?
Yes.
I'm very optimistic. I just left a conference in Accra, Ghana, on constitutional changes of governments in Africa. And I was challenged, was confronted with the fact that my country, Nigeria, occupies a prominent place in the continent of Africa, in the West Africa sub-region. And so much is expected from Nigeria in terms of providing leadership for the entire black race, because this is the largest concentration of black people on earth.
Anywhere in the world, true.
And so, we're challenged. Why are you failing to lead Africa? And I made it clear to all the guests. We have enormous human and natural resources that can take care almost the entire African continent if we can get our acts together. But my optimism is drawn from the fact that the masses of our people are very tolerant and they mean well for the country. And their demands are not much. They want good education for their children, good healthcare system, access to some basic necessities of life.
Right.
And for me, once we can mobilize our people to demand accountability on the part of the government, for me, the sky will be the limit. So the task before genuine progressive forces is to go out there to the masses and mobilize them to take their political destiny in their own hands. They must shun, our people must shun politicians who come around to distribute money or buy votes. People must now begin to demand their rights under the law. And so for me, that is doable. From what you read now in the social media, people are beginning to ask questions. And the government is being forced to respond to those questions. President Bola Tinubu has banned, at least for 3 months,
foreign travel,
frequent, frivolous trips abroad by MDAs. And that must go the whole hog. The state government must also emulate that policy so that we can save money to address the problems of underdevelopment confronting these people. This country.
Right.
And that will also force us to fix our hospitals so that the rich and top public officers will not go abroad for medical, treatment and thereby promote medical tourism. Now that the UK and some countries are, now that our people are finding it difficult to send money abroad to pay, expensive
medical bills,
school fees.
School fees, yeah.
We also will get the government to now begin to pay attention to our schools so that we can fix our own schools. So I'm confident from the point of view of human rights and public interest litigation that we have enough laws today to take care of the welfare of our people. What we are trying to do now from the human rights community is to make these laws available to our people so that they begin to demand their right. Take, for instance, Section 18 of the Constitution provides that there shall be free education from primary to university.
Yes.
But what the ruling class did was to entrench a proviso to the extent that this will only be possible if and when feasible, when possible, when made possible by the government. And the government, of course, will not do that. But what we've done over the year is to insist, at least at the primary school level, we must make it compulsory. So there are laws now at the federal and state levels where, that have provided free and compulsory education from primary to junior secondary school. That for 9 years. So we are now trying to educate our people, enlighten our people to appreciate their rights, the rights of their children under the Child's Rights Act, the Child's Rights laws in the state. All the states now have embraced and enacted the Child's Rights Act into law in their state. So we must now get this shame. We must end this shame of having 20.2 million children
out of school.
Along this line, we have just filed a case in Lagos. We've dragged the federal government and all the state government to the Federal High Court. Can you justify why you are not accessing about 68 billion naira as of November last year? I have just confirmed now that the money in that account is 100 billion, not accessed by the state government. Now that the state governments are collecting more money from the federation account, we must now insist that you must access this money.
And the reason they don't access it is because of the counterpart funding.
Yeah, that's counterpart funding. Now there is enough
for them.
Yeah, to now pay the counterpart fund and be able to take the money to go to the states and banish illiteracy.
Interesting. Now, I want to switch gears to an issue that I've heard you speak a lot about, and it's about the role in the constitution of the Nigerian Police Council, vis-a-vis what seems to be a groundswell consensus on the issue of state police. So the last time the president met with the governors said that, oh, look, let's go and get this state police done. But I've heard your views, expressed, about the fact that governors are actually members of the Nigerian Police Council and they can get things done there. My question to you, therefore, trying to put all this together is that, do you think that the Police Council by itself is enough to guarantee the community policing, which is one of the reasons why people want state police, or will you go all the way out to actually support the advocacy for state police?
I think your question will have to be addressed from my experience under the colonial regime. We had regional police. Apart from the colonial police, we later had regional police when you had partial indigenous government in the 50s.
Right.
So between 51 and 59, we had regional police. Between 1960 and 66, when the military took over power, albeit illegally, we had regional police. But why did the country, why did Nigerians unanimously campaign for the abolition of regional police or state police in the great debate of 1976 to 1979. I've gone to read the great debate. This is compiled into a big book. And the major problems, right,
yes,
at that time,
right,
was that the ruling party
in the region,
used the state police effectively to intimidate
opponents
and silence opponents. Sometimes, I was reading an incident in the Southwest where the ruling party or their thugs, the thugs of the ruling party,
that was the Western region,
yes, would kill and then dump the dead body in your compound in the night as a member of the opposition. The following morning, you are arrested and charged with murder and taken away. Of course, the case will be eventually dismissed for want of, evidence or want of diligent prosecution. So, in the north, the NEPU, that is the Northern Element People's
Union.
Party.
The Progressive Union. Yeah.
The members were constantly and consistently victimized by the ruling MPC, Northern People's Congress. And so people felt, no, we can't go back to that era. So let us have one police force for all of us. Hence, in 1979 and 1999, one federal police, not federal government police, has been entrenched in the Constitution. In Section 215, it is stated that there shall be only the Nigerian police force. How is that police? And I think the late Professor Nwabweze made it clear in one of his books that one central police force is not necessarily antithetical to federalism. It depends on the management of the force. Unfortunately, our governors have allowed the Nigerian police force to become the federal government police force. Hence the demand for state police. Under the Constitution, Section 216 of the Constitution,
right,
the President of the Republic cannot appoint or remove an Inspector General of Police without consulting the Nigerian Police Council. The schedule to that section, Schedule 7 of the Constitution, it is stated there, well stated, that the Nigerian Police Council shall administer, organize, and supervise the Nigerian police force. Who are the members of the Nigerian Police Council? The President as the chairman, the Inspector General of Police, the chairman of the Nigerian Police Service Commission, and the 36 state governors. So in that 39-member body, 36 members are chief executives of the state. It is in that council where the members should discuss how many police personnel should be in every state, how the police command in every state should be funded, and how the police council, force in every state should be managed and supervised and administered. But what has happened? That body had limits. I have a case in court to compare regular meetings of that body because of insecurity in our country. It's not in a democratic society. It is not business of the military to police the society. But you have regular meetings of the Nigerian Security and Defense Council. Whereas we don't have meetings, regular meetings of the Nigerian Police Council. So we must go back to the provisions of the Constitution. It's not unusual in a federation to have the federal government police and state police. But again, we have to go back to the drawing table and fine-tune our policies before you can have state police. You must assure people there are governors in Nigeria, right? That will simply turn the state police into an instrument of oppression. Because even right now, the federal police is turned into instrument of oppression. So we must agree that in a federation, every tier of government, every federative unit should be able to enforce its own laws with its own security apparatus. But then you must guarantee that there will be no intimidation or oppression of political opponents, either by the federal government police or the state, or even local government police. Because right now we deceive ourselves. We already have decentralization of the Nigerian police force right now.
Well, most people wouldn't agree with that.
Every community, because of insecurity, every estate in Lagos or Abuja, they all have their own private security arrangements. And majority of them are armed. And the state will pretend not to know once you don't go out there to kill unarmed people. So these are the areas we have to look at. Even the federal police. Why do you transfer a commissioner of police in a state on the eve of election? Because of the belief that the commissioner of police will kowtow to the governor. And so, in order to create a level playing ground, you will ask the commissioner of police to go elsewhere. And you bring another commissioner of police or a set of commissioners of police to manage the election. So why do we keep on deceiving ourselves? And that is why we must seriously give that idea some serious thought. The meeting that the president had with the governors, it was raised as an idea whose time has come. But it hasn't been adopted.
Not yet.
I believe a lot of thinking will have to go into it so that we don't create more problems. Because right now, you have occasional clashes between the EFCC and the State Security Service, or between the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Police Force. We cannot afford that. So that kind of a dangerous scenario if you have a state police that will have to confront the federal police. So we must clearly define the jurisdiction of each police service. I wouldn't want to use, it's not comfortable. I'm not comfortable to use the word force.
I see that.
That was the position of the colonial,
government
authorities. And that's because they wanted the force to cow our people to submission. For when they were collecting taxes, they were killing our people. Workers were being killed for protesting, as you had in Iva Valley, Enugu in 1949, or the Aba women in 1929, or the Egba women in 1947. So that was in police force. Now it must be a people's police service. And it must serve the people and not the government in power.
Very interesting. Let's move it on as we begin to round up because of our time. I wanted to also ask you about, the situation in Okoloba, where we have that very unfortunate attack on the Nigerian military. I noticed that your comment had said that it shouldn't be the military that should have done the arrest, after the unfortunate incident. So I wanted you to, expatiate. What's your perspective on what had happened, in terms of civil-military relations?
What the tragic killing, the brutal killing of the 4 officers and 12 soldiers occurred on the 14th of March. Barely 24 hours later, because I sensed danger when I discovered that gory pictures of the slain soldiers were circulating in the social media. I issued a statement while commiserating with the family, the bereaved families, and the military, and of course the government.
Yeah.
I appeal to the military authorities to avoid a reprisal attack. As the country witnessed in Odi, in Bayelsa State, Zakibiam in Benue State, and Baramotu in Delta State.
It's in Delta.
Unfortunately, things were not handled properly. And so, at least Okwama village has been reduced to rubble, ashes. A village in Bayelsa where a suspected murder suspect was traced to has also been burned. Now, when you do that, you breach the country's law. Our criminal law does not recognize vicarious liability. You must go for the person who has committed an offense. Under the administration of criminal justice law now, you can no longer arrest Mr. A for the offense of the son or the daughter. That's the law. Secondly, under the current legal system or the criminal justice system, it is not the duty of the military to arrest civilians, detain civilians, investigate civilians. In the case of Miss Anita Paul and the Chief of Army Staff, the Federal High Court in Abuja here, I think it was presided over by the Honorable Justice Taiwo, is retired now, held that under the Constitution, it is the duty of the police to arrest, investigate, and charge civilian suspect, criminal suspect, before the court. In the case of Femi Falana and the Chief of Army Staff, it was also held by the Federal Court sitting in Lagos that you cannot subject civilians to searches on the road, because in 2019 they said they wanted to subject everybody to some search. They call it positive identification parade. The court annulled it. In 2014, this will interest you. In the case of Bala Tinubu and the Chief of Army Staff.
Of the current president?
Yes. As the national leader of the APC as he then was.
Yes.
The Federal High Court, presided over by the Honorable Justice John Soho, the current Chief Judge of the Federal Court, held that you cannot lay siege on the house of the applicant, because it's not the duty of the military. There was going to be an election. I think February 2015, there was going to be an election. Yes. So he ran to court. The applicant ran to court to say, I'm under siege. My house in Ikoyi has been subjected to unnecessary, siege. Therefore, come to, and the court ruled. In the case of APC and PDP, the Court of Appeal ruled that it's illegal for soldiers to monitor elections. In the case of Gbajabi Amila and President Jonathan, right? It was then the current chief of staff was then
a member of the House of Reps.
A member of the House of Reps. He went to court that soldiers cannot manage the election. The court so ruled that it is not the duty of soldier or the army to manage election in a democratic society. That is the duty of the police. So my position is that those who perpetrated the heinous crime in Delta State are not subject to service law.
Military service law?
No. They are civilians. And under the law, only the police can arrest them. The soldiers may help them. The Nigerian army may help them in order to... And when they are arrested, you can even arrest a suspect. But the moment you arrest a suspect, you must turn him over to the police so that the police can carry out proper investigation. In the case of Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the immediate past governor of the Central Bank, the government, he was arrested by the Safe Security Service. And I came out to warn, the way you are going, you will bungle the investigation because it's not your area. Security allegations. So the man was not accused of breaching the security of the country, but of committing economic crime. And they didn't listen to me until Mr. Emefiele went to court and they got an order for his release and that the government should pay him 100 million naira damages. The final point is that in the case of OD, the Federal Court awarded 37.5 billion naira for the destruction of houses and killing of people. In the case of Zakibiam, the Federal Court sitting in Jos awarded 41 billion naira. In the case of Baramatu, the Federal Court awarded 100 billion naira. We cannot continue to pay such colossal sums of money for the criminality of a few people that should have been arrested and charged before a properly constituted court.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fempon. I wish we had more time, and I'm sure that we have opportunity to continue the conversation. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Today, we have a number of guests reviewing the situation of a report by the Foundation for Investigative Journalism on the smuggling, allegations of smuggling around the country and some of the implications and the response of the authorities. To discuss that issue with me today, I have Inibehe Effiong and Ms. Buki Shonibare, who is the chair of the Board of Trustees of the FIJ. Buki, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now, since I have you here, let me just ask you that singular question that I always ask my guests before we get into the FIJ investigation. Where Nigeria is today, do you think that we are on course to that great country that we all envisage, in your view?
The optimistic side of me will say, yes, we are on course, things like that. But if we look at the fact and the realities that we have right now, I cannot say that we're on course. So to answer your question directly, Nigeria is not on course. And that is because we have evidence to show that we're literally rolling back. And I'll speak to the issue that concerns me, or how I approach how a nation, a democratic nation, thrives, which is, let's look at the principles of human rights, for instance. How are people's rights being advanced in this democracy we call Nigeria? When we look at the evidences around, for instance, participation, accountability of the government, bring that in and look at the social contract principle, how the government is supposed to literally report to the governed. You look at the issues around discrimination happening, and when we talk about discrimination, it's not just gender, it's discrimination across different economic discrimination, for instance. And then you see how the gap between the have and the have not keeps widening. You look at issues around how people are empowered. You look at the issues around how the laws are being upheld. I've just reeled out sort of like a panel principle, PANEL, right. Participation, accountability, non-discrimination, empowerment, and legality. If I use that, and that's the space with which, or the lens with which I tend to look at how a democratic nation is thriving. And for us in Nigeria, the fact shows that we are not, moving in that particular direction. So to answer your question directly, I think we're rolling back the gains that we have had before. Recent election shows in that to that effect. Polarization seems to be ethnic polarization, economic polarization, and you look at all of that, and those indicators tell you that the future of Nigeria is not yet towards what we expect to see.
Interesting, and that is a conversation that I hope that we will get an opportunity to actually dig into. But let's take it forward based on what is going on now we have a young man, and it's not just him. There are quite a number of young people who are, pressing the issues of civic engagement, trying to find a space for the expression of their own voices in the polity, which is essentially, in my view, a very positive thing. So you have the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, funded by Mr. Fisayo Shoyombo, did a very compelling story about the Nigerian Customs Service. And this is not the first time that Fisayo is engaged in this kind of, public interest-driven investigative journalism. And now he has made substantial allegations around smuggling. Even smuggling of rice, at a time when there is so much hardship in the land. And then one of the last things that he has said is that, so when and it's an allegation, when the people that are meant to curb smuggling seizes a product that he has seen, he has evidence that the product that was seized from the smuggler is in fact sold by the authorities. Now, so you are the chairperson of the foundation, and I read in the press that you had an encounter with the police on this matter. So I wanted to hear from you what actually happened.
So like you rightly identified, Fisayo Shoyombo started Foundation for Investigative Journalism, FIJ, since June of 2020. Prior to that, and even after that, Fisayo has literally risked his life, revealing, corrupt practices. And those things are not revelations of what some would prefer to call allegations. So they are allegations based on the fact that needs to be proven before you can affirm that. But those revelations shows that, there are huge gaps, huge corruption going on in different places. And the custom story is not the only one. It's done on Abattoir. You remember the one on Arrows of God, the orphanage, and you look at all of those things. And that's what Fisayo has dedicated his life to. In a sane, free, democratic society, men like Fisayo should be hugely celebrated. I personally feel that the guy is even much more celebrated outside of this country than this country. To say that in terms of looking at the responsibility of the press in a democratic society, Fisayo is filling that role, i.e. making sure that the press not only entertain but that the press informs and educates, but most importantly, this press serves as the watchdog in a democratic society, and that's the work that Fisayo is doing. So after the custom story, of course, we've done a lot of stories recently,
right.
The Abattoir story, the Arrows of God story, and many, many others. But after that, we just started seeing this heightened attack, to not just discredit Fisayo and the FIJ, but to also assassinate his character. And talking about assassination, one of the sponsored presses that when Fisayo Shoyombo, when a journalist becomes an assassin, not a character assassin, an assassin, that is huge. So what happened? It's one of the sponsored articles after the custom story came out, and that's one out of many coordinated attacks. But let me backtrack to the question that you asked in terms of what happened. Right. I was invited by the police. It was actually on a Saturday that I got the invitation. That's last week Saturday that I got the invitation by email. It was sent to me by email, and that I was invited to come on a Tuesday, which was the next Tuesday. So the letter stated that I was, in fact, in the framing of the letter, it was as though I was to come and interview the investigator. But I was asked to come in my capacity as the board chair. Right. And then when I went there, we decided to make it public. And we did that because we know the character of those that we're dealing with. So I went there. When I got to the entrance where I needed to sign in, I was told that I was going to the threat response unit. The threat response unit. And I was concerned about that because I recall that I looked at the lawyer and I was like, threat? What has happened?
Now, this was
Yes, I went with my lawyer. So my lawyer was there. There was another junior lawyer that was there. And Samson Itodo of Yaga Africa also just came there when he saw this story.
Right.
And we were there, and I was told that I could only go in with one person.
Okay.
So Samson couldn't go in. The other lawyer couldn't go in. So we went in with the main lawyer.
Okay.
So when we got in, we were asked to sign that we're going to the threat unit. And I recall we looked at ourselves, threat response. So by saying that the department that is interviewing, investigating, is the threat response, what you have alluded to is that a threat has been issued by the organization that I represent, which is FIJ in this regard. FIJ has released stories before now.
Right.
The government has taken action on some FIJ stories. For instance, the Arrow of God story, the orphanage one, it was shut down in Anambra State.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
In fact, 3 or 4 of their branches were actually shut down. And so, but this one they are refusing. Now, just like you rightly said, bring in the parties. Huge revelations have been made about IB Dende, about Sokopu or something like that, one of them, and so many smugglers. Have you called these people? What is the National Assembly doing? There's a committee on customs relation. Have you invited these relevant people to establish the truth? And it is when you have now found that, oh, this guy, Fisayo, has actually gone wrong, then invite him and do whatever, you arrest or whatever. But that has not been done. But put their responses on record in your bid to establish whether the revelations that have been made is true or not. But what do we see? We see customs literally on their private, this thing, we have 17,000 workforce. If you attack him, it will whittle down his power. On Facebook, he's more being attacked, and when you click on the picture of those who are attacking him on Facebook, there are people mainly from that point. Fisayo has made allegations around death, murder. There are people who reveal information, informants who go missing, who are killed, whose numbers are bad. He's made allegations around gun running, around smuggling. A known smuggler is said to sponsor the Customs Wives Association at an event recently. IB Dende was one of the main people who supported that. And then after the thing was done, when they saw that Fisayo released this thing, they went to private put private lock on their this thing. So the point, just like you rightly said, is, and that's the work of the media and the press in a democratic society. But final word, when journalistic work is being done, investigative journalistic work is being done, and it makes revelations like this, the responsibility is on the supply side, the government. The primary responsibility of the government shall be the security and the welfare of the people. Section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution. What that means is that the government has the mandate, the constitutional mandate, to make sure that in achieving that primary responsibility of security and welfare of the people, because this borders on security. Smuggling is death. Smuggling, people are being killed. And then when you have gun running, people bringing gun into, what are those guns being used for? Guns are used to kill people. So you are failing in that primary mandate. So my final word is, pick that report and do your proper investigation. IB Dende has not been invited till date. Has not been investigated. So there is no response from him. Other than IB Dende, there are other people that Fisayo, and then this is usual breakfast that he issues to the custom every morning, where he releases another revelation. You know, nothing is being done on all of that. Rather, you are looking for 17,000 workforce to attack him. So point is, the Nigerian government should do its bit, not just on this custom issue. Since Fisayo started this work, he has revealed over 20 issues regarding custom, 20 revelations, none has been taken up to say that this is what should be done. So we hope that with this, the government will play its part and show that it is indeed a government of the people, for the people, and by the people.
And thank you so much, Buki, for coming. And we are interested in this matter. It's a very important story, and I trust that the Inspector General of Police, who himself is a notable Nigerian, will do what is right, and all the authorities concerned, including the customs authorities. It's important that we put an end to this allegation. What FIJ reported, is it true or is it not true? That is what Nigerians are interested in, and we hope that is what we're going to get. Thank you so much, Buki Chonibare, chairperson of the FIJ Board of Trustees, for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kode. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, and there we have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. I have joining me now a leading human rights lawyer from Lagos. Is joining us virtually. I want to welcome to Inside Sources Mr. Inibehe Effiong. You're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Let me just go right to the point. What do you think is the proper procedure if the authorities have an issue with a story by a journalist and they want to, like for instance, the police PRO has now said that there are at least 2 weighty petitions against the founder of Foundation for Investigative Journalism that did what seems to be a damning report around smuggling in the country. So the PRO of the police is saying that there are weighty petitions against the young man. What is the proper procedure recognized by the law, Mr. Effiong?
Thank you. As a lawyer who has had to take up cases involving the police over the years, I'm usually suspicious when the police goes on record to brag about the weightiness, the gravity of petitions that have been written to them in cases of this nature. What I find very curious is the fact that the report by Mr. Fisai Osoyombo and the Foundation for Investigative Journalism has not really been contested or challenged on the merits by the leadership of the Nigerian Customs Service. Not the Controller General, not any of the officers implicated, and not even the individual who has been accused of engaging in smuggling. That is Mr. Bende, I think as is called. I am not aware that they have really satisfactorily contested the reports on the facts. Now, I would have thought that if there are aspects of the report that are being disputed, that the proper procedure, the right thing to do, would be for the leadership of the Nigerian Customs Service and even the presidency, the federal government, and the Ministry of Interior to find a way to even look at where this report is coming from. But what we have seen now is that the police has now been commissioned, as we see in similar cases, to basically go after the messenger while ignoring the message. I don't understand what the police is doing. I do not know what the motivation is, but I suspect that this is again another attempt to sweep the very grave issue that Mr. Fisayo has raised under the carpet. Because if you are saying, right, that the man that is implicated in this report does not have relationship with the Controller General of Customs as it has been reported, or is not involved in smuggling, or that even the video that has been put out by the Foundation for Investigative Journalism showing the individual threatening armed operative of the Nigerian Customs Service. If you are saying that these facts are not correct, then tell us what the facts are. But that also seems to be what the police is after. The other very laughable part of this is that the police ordinarily is supposed to be a law enforcement agency, right?
Yes.
Upon becoming aware of this kind of report, if the police is truly interested in fighting crime, what they should be targeting, what should be of primary concern to them, should be how to look at this report and then find out whether truly these individuals are culpable or not. And if they are, how do we bring them to justice? Journalism is not a crime, because this is again another attempt at criminalization of journalism. I do know that the lawyer to Mr. Bende, I think that is his name, has even caused a letter to be written to the Foundation for Investigative Journalism. And the media organization has also responded to say, we are ready to meet you in court. Because if the allegation is one that is predicated on defamation, then let those who are concerned, let those who are aggrieved go to court and ventilate that. But what we must not support is the deployment of state apparatus, the use of the police, right, to criminalize the work of a journalist. That is unacceptable. Mr. Suyombo did not stay somewhere and just put out this report. He went to communities, he spoke to witnesses, people who are witnesses to account, including officials of the Nigerian Customs Service. So how can the police just simply come out and say, why will you put this out? So they are more concerned about the embarrassment that has been caused to the Customs Service, about the exposure that has been done by the journalists, than the fact of the matter itself. And that is not how a country that is interested in development is supposed to behave. Nigerians are aware that customs over the years have always been accused of aiding smuggling. But this is quite unprecedented, because this seems to be the first time that we have seen the Nigerian Customs Service being exposed in this manner, right? Even the leadership, including the Controller General, has been mentioned. They have not threatened to sue him for defamation, because they know that that may not hold up in court. What they have done, as they have always done, is to use the police to intimidate, to harass, and to silence the media house that has put out this report. And I find that very, despicable. It is not how to govern a country.
Thank you, Mr. Effiong. I wanted to follow up. I wanted to know what is the proper procedure under law. So the PRO of the police earlier this week on our program Daily Politics Today did say that the police actually have not declared Mr. Suyombo arrested. But he then said that there are at least 2 weighty petitions against him. Now, what I wanted to ask Mr. Effiong is that, is the public entitled to know the contents of those petitions, especially because the allegations contained in the story that Mr. Suyombo did, they are already in the public space. So if somebody is sending a secret petition to the police, is it required by law that such petitions be also brought into the open? I just want us to educate, I want you to educate us on this matter, Mr. Effiong. Well,
first and foremost, I think taking the first PRO seriously is a risky adventure. This is an individual that I know personally. I've also he has had cause to issue statements, about some of my work and all that. So I know this individual. But on your question, the matter is not personal. This is a grave matter of public interest. The issues that have been reported, they are not personal to Mr. Suyombo. They are not personal to Foundation for Investigative Journalism. They are not even personal to the Controller General of Nigerian Customs, or even Mr. Bende, the individual that has been implicated. If they are claiming that they have weighty petitions, remember I started by cautioning that nobody should take the police for their words when they claim they have weighty petitions in political matters in cases of this nature, right? Do not take them for their words. Let them put out the petition. Let Nigerians see it. It is a public document. There is nothing confidential. There is nothing secretive about it, right? If the content of the petition is so grave, if they have so serious evidence of commission of crime against Mr. Suyombo and the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, put it out in the public space, right? Yeah. They cannot privatize it. They cannot classify it. It is not a classified matter. It is a matter of public interest. Let the petition be put out. And of course, they have no right to declare him wanted. The court have ruled on that. No law enforcement agency, not the police, not the EFCC, not the army, can declare anybody wanted without an order of court. So let them tell Nigerians who the petitioners are, what the content of the petition is. Let us see it. And we will then be able to say as members of the public that there is a that there is even basis for the invitation or not. Right? Because as I am telling you from my own experience, that in cases of this nature, it is safer to be cautious in believing the police. It is risky to take the police for their words. If truly they have evidence of commission of crime, in any case, what could be the possible crime? Let's even give them the benefit of doubt. that there's even a weighty petition. What is the petition predicated on? Is it the now thoroughly abused Cyber Crimes Act that the police has made nonsense of? That every Tom, Dick, and Harry is weaponizing to silence critics? Right? Or is it defamation that they are alleging? Or what do they want? What could they possibly charge him for? For doing his work as the journalist? Because constitutionally, if you look at Section 39 of the Constitution, every individual has the right to establish, own, and operate any medium for dissemination of information, ideas, and opinion. And Section 22 of the Constitution also guarantees the media, the press, right, and all agencies of the mass media, give them the responsibility, a constitutional role, to hold the government accountable, to expose atrocities of government, to expose corruption, inefficiency, and waste. So if the police is now saying that this report is a departure from the constitutional role of the media, let them put the facts forward. Let them put the facts forward. When we see it, we will be able to then respond to it. But at this moment, the facts on public record, the facts that we are aware, are overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. FIJ and the Foundation for Investigative Journalism. And if at all anybody is alleging that this report is false, they should file a civil claim in court. The use of state apparatus to quell journalism, to criminalize journalism. And let me, at the risk of, patronizing Mr. FIJ, I know this gentleman, right? He is not a pushover in journalism. He has been an editor of reputable media organizations. He knows his onions. He has done this kind of reports before. So this is not new. And I hope they know who they are dealing with, right? He's not somebody, he's not a pushover at all. So these threats, this act of intimidation is not going to work. The public has already formed their opinion. If they want to change the opinion of the public, let them put compelling facts forward.
Thank you. Let
them tell us why the report is false.
Thank you.
For now, they haven't done that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Effiong, for your comments. And like you said, we will be following up this issue because indeed you are correct. This is a public interest matter, and it is one that we keep our eyes focused on. Thank you so much, Mr. Effiong, for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
All right, thank you. That is another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, hashtag Nigeria will prevail. My name is Laura Konde. I'll see you next week by the grace of God. Thank you.